My name is Dana Blake. I'm a senior analyst in the Army's top-tier Signals Intelligence Division. But today, I'm not in a command room or briefing center. I'm sitting in a military courtroom, watching the man who once called me a nobody take the stand like it's a casual Tuesday. He adjusts his tie like he's still got power in this room. I know that look. I grew up with it. It's the same smug smile he wore when he dismissed my achievements at the dinner table and laughed off bruises as accidents. He thinks this is his story, that he gets to control the narrative one last time. He doesn't know the system he's walked into. This court doesn't care about charm. It runs on documentation, timelines, the chain of command, and facts. For the first time in his life, he's in a room where volume doesn't matter. Silence does. They asked if I wanted to testify. I didn't answer. I just signed my consent, nodded once, and let the process begin. I wasn't here for revenge. I came for the truth. And here's the thing about the truth. It doesn't shout. It waits. It watches. Then it hits like a steel trap. How does a man lose everything in 7 minutes of silence? I'll tell you. But first, you need to know what silence really sounds like. People say home should be your safe place. For me, it was just a quiet war zone. My stepfather, Carl, was a retired MP who carried his authority like it still meant something, and my mother was a soft-voiced woman who avoided conflict like it was fire. He never hit me. That would have made things simpler. Instead, he controlled the air in the room, the weight of every glance, the sharp edge of every word that sounded like concern, but cut like a blade. Dana's just quiet, he'd say at barbecues when I didn't chime in. Always been that way. Fragile. Like her hearing. He made it sound like I was one breeze away from breaking. When I was 10, I brought home a spelling bee trophy. He nodded once and said, "Cute," then turned to my mom and asked if dinner was ready. I learned early not to expect applause. Later, I learned not to need it. There was this one Sunday dinner I'll never forget. Roast chicken, green beans, and his favorite whiskey. My mother tried to mention that I'd won a departmental recognition at my base, something involving intelligence briefings. She smiled like it would make him proud. He picked up the plaque I'd left on the side table, squinted at the seal, and asked, "Is this for playing the quiet game the longest?" My mother forced a chuckle and said, "Carl, be nice." Then she turned to me and added, "He just worries about you, honey." They didn't see it as cruelty. They saw it as care. Their version of love came with limits. Be good, be small, stay safe, don't challenge, don't shine too bright. My silence wasn't just about hearing. It became the way I coped, the way I survived. I withdrew into my own world where no one measured me by how loud I laughed or how fast I answered. But even there, his voice echoed, telling me I was less. Carl had a gift for shrinking people without laying a hand on them. My mother's way of surviving him was pretending everything was fine. Mine was getting out the moment I could. But no matter how far I went, his voice came with me. In my head, in my posture, in the way I hesitated before speaking up. That label fragile wasn't just something he said. It was something I carried until I learned how to use it against him. Inside the skiff, the sound never changes. Just the low hum of machines and the faint click of keyboards. It's the kind of silence that would rattle most people. For me, it's where everything finally made sense. I was scanning drone footage from a courtyard in northern Syria. No audio. Just grainy visuals, and 2 men standing 10 feet apart. My team thought it was a stalled negotiation. Tense, but not dangerous. Then I saw it, a small movement, a thumb dragged across a throat, an index finger tapped twice against the wrist. Most people wouldn't even notice it. I did. It wasn't fidgeting. It was communication. I leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen. My hands moved before I even thought. Signing fast, clear, no hesitation. "This isn't a standoff," I told my team lead. "This is a kill order, code name Viper, authenticate now." We rerouted the feed and activated a secure channel. The response came back fast. An American unit had been moving in. If we hadn't caught the signal, They would have walked into an ambush. My report stopped it cold. No one clapped. That's not how it works in my world. But my director looked at me, nodded once, and updated the file. In this room, that nod meant everything. Back home, they thought my silence made me small, but here, it made me powerful. I didn't miss things because I was quiet. I saw more because I was. That day, I saved lives with a skill most people never thought mattered. That's when I stopped thinking of it as a weakness. It was my edge. They started calling me the Viper Decoder after that mission. It was half joke, half respect, passed around by people who had seen what I could do in the silent footage. It stuck, and somehow, it felt like I had finally earned a name that meant something. At the base, my silence wasn't seen as absence. It was precision. My team didn't ask why I didn't speak much. They just passed me footage, trusted my eyes, and followed my lead. It was a kind of respect I never tasted growing up. Then I went home for Thanksgiving. Same table, same roast, same small talk that felt like landmines. Carl was in rare form, pouring wine like he was king of the world. My mother, as always, tried to keep things light. I mentioned I had been promoted to lead analyst on a classified op. Carl raised an eyebrow and asked if that meant I finally graduated from listening to radio static. My mom laughed too quickly, like she was defusing a bomb. "He's just teasing," she said. "You know he's proud." But he wasn't. He never was. He hated what he couldn't control. And I had become something he couldn't understand. At work, I was the woman who spotted silent threats and rewrote military protocols. At home, I was still the girl who never spoke up enough. I sat there, holding a fork in one hand and rage in the other. Nobody asked about the mission. Nobody cared that I'd helped stop a massacre. What mattered was that I passed the potatoes politely. Funny how the world praises what your family fears. I had one last box to load before the drive to the airfield. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the driveway, and my keys were already in my hand. This was supposed to be the clean break. No arguments, no goodbyes, just gone. But then, Carl stepped into the light, like he'd been waiting, arms crossed, blocking the car. He looked me up and down like I was trespassing on my own life. "You're not going anywhere," he said, calm, flat, like a command. I told him I had orders. He laughed, said answering phones wasn't real deployment, said I was playing dress up again. I tried to walk past him, but he grabbed my arm. Not hard, just enough to say he still could. I yanked it free. He didn't like that. He called me disrespectful, told me I needed to learn my place. I said I wasn't his to control anymore. That's when his hand went to his side, and everything in me froze. He pulled the gun he always carried, part habit, part power move. I don't think he meant to shoot, but he did. The sound was massive. My ears rang. My side burned hot, then cold. I hit the concrete hard, gasping. The garage spinning around me. He didn't run to help. He stared, mouth tight, eyes calculating, already writing the story in his head. Accident, struggle, poor man, defending his home. I couldn't speak. Blood was pooling fast, but I wasn't dead. Not yet, and I sure as hell wasn't done. I rolled to my stomach, teeth clenched against the pain. I started to crawl. Every inch forward felt like ripping open. But I moved, because staying meant disappearing. I would not disappear. Not like this. The night air hit me like a slap. Cold, sharp, real. I dragged myself out of the garage, leaving a smear of blood behind me. Every movement. A war. My vision tunneled. The world tilted sideways. I could barely hear anything, but the pain was loud enough. Across the street, a man walking his dog stopped mid-step. His eyes locked on me. I raised a trembling hand, slick with blood, and started to sign. My fingers shook, clumsy but deliberate. I used a sequence of highly specific military hand signals, not ASL, for a threat assessment. Threat identified. Male, armed, former military police, 9mm weapon, 3 shots fired. Status, critical. My body was shutting down, but my brain was on fire. I didn't even think. I just reported. The man moved fast, not with panic, but with purpose. He knelt beside me and watched my hands like they were a screen streaming intel. He recognized the codes. A second later, I saw his badge. A colonel's insignia on the shoulder of his flight jacket. My mind screamed, but my face stayed still. Of all the people to stumble across me, it had to be him. He spoke into his phone without looking away. Gave coordinates. Used code. I caught one phrase. Intel asset down. Then he looked at me and nodded once. It was the exact same nod I'd seen in the skiff after Viper. I passed out right after that. But I remember the look in his eyes. Not fear. Not pity. Recognition. He didn't see a broken girl on a driveway. He saw what I was. Trained. Trusted. Dangerous even when bleeding. In those seconds, my silence didn't make me powerless. It made me understand. That's the part Carl never got. You don't need a voice to command a room. You need the right language. The courtroom was cold enough to sting. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, and every sound felt amplified against the silence. My stepfather sat at the defense table, relaxed, smiling like he was back in control. He had always been good at stories, especially the ones that made him the hero. He leaned toward his lawyer, whispered something that made them both smirk. I could almost hear the script in his head. She's fragile. She stumbled. It was an accident. It always started the same way. A lie coded in confidence. The JAG prosecutor called the first witness, but I didn't hear the words. I was watching him. The way he adjusted his cuffs. The way his jaw flexed. When I didn't flinch. He expected tears or outrage. I gave him neither. When it was my turn to respond, I didn't speak. I just reached into the folder beside me and slid a document across the table. It wasn't a secret code. It was a securely verified digital activation key for the prosecution. My signature wasn't inked. It was digital. Secure. A single sequence that only one division could authenticate. The clerk looked confused. The judge didn't. He paused, then nodded toward the technician sitting at the monitor. The technician discreetly authenticated the key against the secure military network, confirming its validity and my status. No secret information was displayed. The air changed. Everyone felt it. I sat still, hands folded, while the system I helped design did what it was built to do: protect its assets. My stepfather's smirk faltered when he realized the rules in this room were no longer his. He looked at me like I'd turned into someone else. I hadn't. This was just the part of me he never believed existed, the one that didn't need to speak to win. The one who understood silence could carry more authority than any defense he could invent. When Colonel Davies took the stand, the entire room shifted. He didn't need to raise his voice. His presence alone commanded silence. Medals lined his uniform, but it was the way he looked at me steady, knowing that told everyone this was about more than a witness statement. He spoke clearly, describing the moment he saw me crawling out of the garage, covered in blood. He said I was silent but deliberate, not panicked, not flailing, communicating in a manner known only to specific high-level intelligence operatives. Then he began to interpret. One by one, he translated every hand signal I made that night. Threat assessment, weapon type, perpetrator background, condition of the victim, state of mind of the shooter. The words landed like hammer blows. Each one dismantled Carl's lie. The colonel paused when the prosecutor asked why my response was delivered through such highly specialized, nonverbal means. His voice dropped just enough to shift the gravity in the room. Because she was operating under active mission status, he said. Her nonverbal response was not a plea for help. It was a field report delivered by a high-value federal asset under duress. This was not a domestic incident. It was an assault on a U.S. intelligence operative. Carl's mouth fell open. The story he built, the fragile girl, the accident, collapsed in seconds. The colonel didn't even look at him. He turned to the judge instead and said, "Her hands gave us the intel to secure the scene and initiate the federal response." My mother covered her face. Carl just sat there, frozen. For the first time, he couldn't explain it away. He couldn't talk over it or minimize it. The silence he mocked became the voice that ruined him. The truth didn't just come out. It stood up in uniform and said my name, not as a victim, as a weapon he never saw coming. A year later, my life looks nothing like the one I left behind. I walk through a secure wing of a federal complex, where silence isn't a barrier, it's the common language. My badge says director now, and the team waiting in the conference room earned their place by hearing with their eyes. The non-verbal threat intelligence task force is small, sharp, and impossible to intimidate. Some of us are deaf, some hard of hearing, some just fluent in silence. We don't need noise to find threats. We read the world in glances, gestures, and gaps. We're not here because someone gave us a chance. We're here because we built this space. I watch new recruits lean into footage that others gave up on, catching the shift of a shoulder, a blink pattern, a rhythm missed by audio transcripts. It's like watching a language be born in real time, one that only we understand. I keep my office simple. Clean desk, glass walls, one small plaque tucked under a framed photo of the team. No trophies, no reminders, just purpose and peace, the kind I never thought I'd have. Every few months, I checked the secure inbox we use for personal messages. One day, there it was. An email from my mother. Cleared through security. Flagged as non-threatening. Subject line: "Please, Dana." I didn't open it. I knew what it would say. Apologies soaked in denial. Explanations written to soothe her. Not me. I archived it. Not out of spite. Just clarity. My healing didn't need her words. It already had its own voice. That afternoon, I had lunch with my team and Colonel Davies. The conversation moved easily between spoken English and signs. We laughed. Debated signal intelligence. No one had to translate who I was. I belonged here, not because someone let me in, but because I chose to stay. I built something from the very thing they once tried to break. Leadership isn't about titles. It's about creating a place where others don't have to survive what you did just to be heard. I did that. We did that. And I never had to raise my voice to get here.